Well, happy Saturday, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. We're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here in downtown Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It is Father's Day weekend. We actually had a good week here this past week in Ocean City, Maryland. We'll share some of the video of the Air Force Thunderbirds. Pretty awesome from the beach. But again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Thought we'd real quick talk about drought here in the U.S. We were making great progress. We went from 85% of the country in dry to drought phases, which is near historic highs of all time, back on the 1st of November, and then plummeted to 41% here by the 23rd of May. And then now here the last few weeks, we've had an uptick of some dry expansion across the U.S. Midwest and to the east. Already seeing signs of improvement here in the eastern part of this area. We had 1, 2, 3 inches of rain here the past week here in eastern Pennsylvania after about 6 or 7 weeks of virtually no rain. So starting to see the pattern maybe break down a bit here, but again, do not expect this dry drought phase to expand much more than this. Maybe a little bit here the next week or two, but July should turn wetter again with this El Nino cycle. And again, we are officially pretty much in an El Nino. There's no doubt about it. Again, you can see the ocean temperature waters here are much, much warmer than last year in the equatorial Pacific. All those yellows and oranges, again, much above last year levels. And then if we look here in a minute, trends versus normal here, again, still trending 2, 3, 4 degrees above average. So the La Nina cycle is over. The cooler waters in the equatorial Pacific are now replaced with warm. Models right here show that this may be a quick hit of a strong El Nino and then weakening as we get into the fall winter season. We'll see, but again, it may be a quick event here. But any event, there's no doubt we are headed for an El Nino cycle here for the balance of 2023. Looking at last week world summer here for weekending here today, 17 June here in the U.S., cold, 6 degrees colder than last year, coldest in 24 years, fourth coldest in 38 years, so much below average national temperatures. Now this big map are trends versus last year, how our retail customers would look at the weather. So again, very unfavorable for those hot summer categories of air conditioners and fans and cold beverages. Pacific Northwest would have been the bright spot. Not so in the UK. UK was definitely hot, number one hottest, and quite dry. So hot and dry would be good for summer categories there in UK. China, India, extremely hot. Warmest in 3 years in China, fifth warmest in 38 in China. India, second hottest in 38 years. So hot, dry drought trends in India and Asia, even Australia warmed up, dried out a bit. So signs of El Nino. Again, when you get typically what would happen is El Nino would bring a dry to drought phases toward Asia and wetter trends here in the Americas. Maps inset left are the trends versus average. If we look at this week here, week of Father's Day, again here in the U.S., 1.8 cooler than last year, coolest in 19 years, eighth coolest in 38 years. So again, not an overly favorable trend for our retail seasonal suppliers, but again, it may get some improvement here as we get toward the middle part of July. And if we look at actually early July. If we look at rainfall, it's up about 43%, wetter than last year. Still 11th driest in 38 years. Very wet there in the southeast part of the U.S. and some rain, much needed rainfall there in the upper plains. Again, but not much for the Midwest Corn Belt, Ohio Valley here this week. We'll see about next week. Looking at tropical storm here, we may have actually Brett here. Unusual. Again, El Niños typically can bring wind shear and suppress the systems that come off of Africa, but not so. This is early, very early actually. Normally you wouldn't see this until August, but strong tropical wave coming off Africa has a pretty good chance here, according to the Hurricane Center, of becoming Tropical Storm Brett late this week and heading toward the U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands here late week. So something to watch. We'll see if it can make it all the way to the U.S. Again, just because El Ninos, we always say, are different. You can't just make a blanket statement that they will suppress the hurricane season. We do not believe it will. We actually think it'll be a slightly above average season with a lot of systems forming close in to the U.S., so eliminating some of that wind shear effect that you can typically get here in the equatorial Pacific. Looking at next weekend, hard to believe we're getting into the week before 4th of July here, week through 1 July. Here in the U.S., a little bit warmer, 1 point warmer than last year, 9th warmest in 38 years. So an improving trend for sure in the central U.S., where it looks to get quite a bit hotter. So again, see some uptick in summer seasonal category sales there. A little bit better in the east, but again, not much, not record heat by any means, just slightly warmer than average temperatures. Rainfall down about 47%, number one dries in 38 years. We'll see if it's that dry. Do see some rainfall potentially getting there into the western Corn Belt, northwest Corn Belt, and Ohio Valley, much needed rainfall. So we'll see. Again, typically when you're cooler, as we've been here this May, June timeframe, the cooler weather suggests cold fronts, which suggests you should be getting some rain. That was not the case here the past several weeks. So again, a little unusual to have the cooler trends and then not also be wet. But again, we'll see here if we can get some stronger thunderstorm activity here, much needed to save some of these crops in the central west corn belt. We look at the World 2-week outlook here again. So this is the 2-week period, 18 June through 1 July. Again, generally warm in the central U.S., cooler in the west, but warming there as well. Southeast is probably going to remain the cool spot with rainfall. Pretty warm there across Europe. So again, that would be a favorable area for summer seasonal categories. We'll end here with a long video here of a 30-minute air show here, U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. Of course, Captain Kirk loves the Thunderbirds. Used to support these guys many moons ago, F-16s back in the day, 30-some years ago at MacDill Air Force Base. So in any event, enjoy the 30-minute show. We condense it to 3 minutes. Again, if you want to watch it here from the beach from Ocean City, Maryland. With that, folks, I hope you have a great week, great Father's Day, and we will be here again this time next week.